Top of the season to ya. We're back with the full story of the most unlikely teaming up of three factors that normally you would not ever associate with each other. You take Hawaii, plus tornado warnings, plus St. Patrick's Day. Hi, I'm Chris May, writer, producer, and host of This Day in Weather History from the Weather Network in Canada. It was March 17th, St. Paddy's Day. There was not one, but two tornado warnings in Hawaii on this day in weather history. All right, first of all, I grew up around Irish relatives, so I'm allowed to take a stab at an Irish accent. I only do it for a short period of time, so forgive me. But two things you normally also do not associate with the Aloha State are tornadoes and St. Patrick's Day. However, regardless of all that, two tornado warnings were issued in the Hawaiian Islands on this day. No damage or tornado touchdowns were ever reported to the National Weather Service, but let's be honest here. That was the least of their shock at this point. I featured this very story as a part of my Year in Review International Edition back on December 30th. Tell you what, if you missed that, you really should go back and check it out. It was jammed with some real shocking and surreal tales of natural events right here on our very own planet Earth. So this occurrence of two tornado warnings on the Big Island was so unusual, primarily because there had previously only ever been two tornado warnings ever for the state as long as record keeping began. Those were on Kauai, December 13th of 08, and Maui, March 24th of 06. And the last time they even came close to a tornado was an EF0 land spout on Oahu, April 23rd of 2015. It's like a tornado, so it's close. Now, about those two warnings. The first warning was issued on the island of Niihau in the middle of the night, around 20 after 1 in the morning. That is Hawaii Standard Time, when the National Weather Service Doppler radar picked up the signatures of strong rotation. The second tornado warning was issued for the island of Kauai 5.5 hours later at about 10 to 6 that same morning when an intense area of rotation moved onshore. Kauai is much larger and far more densely populated, so this was already an immediate concern. Remember that This Day in Weather History can be enjoyed a number of ways. Right now, you're listening to the full version of today's story on your favorite podcast provider. But there's also the daily podcast video short. They're shot right here in my podcast studio, so you get that perspective, and oftentimes they will include visuals from that day's event when it happened in weather history. So, after listening right here to the full story, go there to check out the podcast video short. Where? On television or online anytime at theweathernetwork.com/weather history. It was the first warning for a tornado issued in the Aloha State since 2008. So, that goes without saying that I'm interested in what happened. These rotating thunderstorms were the result of what they call in Hawaii a larger Kona storm that was sliding in from the west. The moisture-loaded storm had already dropped over 20 inches or 51 centimeters, also known here in Canada as 510 millimeters of rain at the high elevation summits of the highest peaks on Kauai, with a widespread, very heavy rain elsewhere. The mountains of Kauai are a unique topographical feature that serves to enhance the tropical moisture into extreme downpours that would be mind-boggling. 510 millimeters would do that by any standards known to the rest of the Union. So, I tell you that to tell you this. That second rotation was therefore particularly impressive. It even featured what's termed a BWER, or a bounded weak echo region on radar. It looks like the eye of a storm, but those are normally reserved for the description of cyclones, hurricanes. This donut-like hole formation in a tornado occurs when an updraft is so strong that rain is simply not able to fall within it, so you get that opening. It's kind of like a black hole in outer space that is so intense in its gravitational draw that not even light can escape. Now, as a special postscript, because, let's be honest, most people relate Hawaii to Honolulu, the National Weather Service said Honolulu did not receive any reports of tornadoes or damage from the morning storms in this city or even region. But I say again, where previously there had only ever been two tornado warnings for the Hawaiian chain of islands, this day featured two on its own. This Day in Weather History. Hey, do you like the podcast? We'd love to hear from you. If you have an idea, go right now to wherever you're listening to me and rate us if you would please. It's on a 5-star system and we would love as many stars as you can afford. So rate us, but then also review us. This way we can always stay on top of how you'd like to see the show evolve. Then remember to subscribe to this podcast. Click the subscribe or follow button right there on the very same podcast homepage you're listening on. You'll be immediately reminded that the next day is ready to listen to, and you also have access to every episode in the archives. It dates back to June 1st of 2020, so there is a lot that we got to get caught up on this day in weather history. Tomorrow is March 18th. This is when the worst tornado in U.S. history passed through eastern Missouri, southern Illinois, and southern Indiana. It was known as the Tri-State Tornado, and this deadly twister opened up in Ellington, Missouri, but its northeast track sent it straight into southern Illinois, who seemed to take the worst of it on this day in weather history. With me, your host, Chris May.